is locally owned and operated, serving the Tri-County area, Palm Beach, Dade, and Broward counties for the last 25 years. The practice of medicine is changing dramatically. All County Healthcare, Inc. still does it the old-fashioned way, where our nurses and healthcare professionals come into your home to service your medical needs, providing you the fastest and best care possible. For more information, call 954-717-7027. And remember, Medicare Home Care is covered by Part A of Medicare with no out-of-pocket cost to you. It's your decision, and only your decision, on what healthcare agency you use. Call today. All County Home Health Care, Inc. at 954-717-7027. License 200999096. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Amp2.tv presents You and Your Doctor, teaching you to live a longer and healthier life. Proudly sponsored by All County Healthcare, where people are the heart of our business. All County Healthcare is a Medicare certified agency where one call will service all your home care health needs. For more information, call 954-717-7027 or visit our website, allcountyhealthcare.com. Now, let's get informed to living a longer and healthier life. Here is your host for today's show.
Hello, South Florida and beyond, and welcome to the You and Your Doctor show. We're lucky to have tonight, we're going to be talking with a nephrologist. You'll probably recognize him. I think this is his third time on the show. He was on almost a little more than a month ago. Dr. David W. Moskowitz. Dr. Moskowitz, how are you doing this evening?
I'm fine. Thanks very much.
I always say thank you for joining us on this adventure of health. And, not always do I get to talk to a nephrologist. I mean, that is expert in kidneys, and I'm just so happy to have you. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on again, I found your paper that you just wrote, and Dr. Moskowitz, I'll probably get this wrong a few times. It's on quercetin for COVID-19. Was I even close on that?
It's as good as I can say it.
Good.
I've heard that you actually pronounced it right, quercetin, and I used to call it quercetin, but nobody ever says it. You just order it from Amazon.
Yeah, that's a question I'm going to get to. So, I phonetically spelled it out on my notes here, but I found it fascinating because this paper that you wrote, and we're going to tell everyone, how you can find this. Goes into the case. You actually had a COVID case, a patient come to your office, and after you were able to take care of him and get him back to, a quality of life, sounds like, probably better than before he came into your office, you wrote the paper on it. So let's start. First question, is quercetin a prescription medication, or can it be found over the counter? You mentioned Amazon, which was surprising.
No, it's over the counter. So anybody can pick it up just by going online. GNC has it. Drugstores have it, grocery stores. But probably the easiest way to get it is to order it online instead of having to look from one place to another. And you don't need a prescription.
Yeah, that's when I read the whole paper, I got that, that came to me right there. So before I get into some of the common things that, where quercetin is found in, I wanted to get right into this case. So we know from the paper, and you telling us a little bit last time, was an 18-year-old man with asthma. And then if you could kind of give us a little background and, what he was on. I think it was the prednisone. And how you decided to supplement quercetin with that treatment. If you could tell us a little bit about that, that'd be great.
So this is a great guy from Hollywood who had asthma starting at the age of 4. He was 18. He's 18 now. And when I met him on the 10th of April, and this was a televisit, so we haven't actually met in person yet. He'd had 2 weeks of diarrhea, and let's see, what else did he have? He had two things. He had nausea and diarrhea, which are, it's not asthma. And so he may have had cough, I guess, too. It's been a while since I read my case report. Anyway, we were all geared up for COVID-19, and diarrhea is seen in a third of patients with COVID-19, and the cough is typical. It's not a big productive cough, not a whole lot of phlegm, but he had that and the diarrhea, and by then I'd begun to feel that COVID-19 should be treated just like asthma, because in China there was a case report of 140 patients, and there were no asthmatics, even though COVID-19 presents like asthma with shortness of breath and pain in your chest with each breath. Not so much wheezing, but it sure looks like asthma. But none of the first 140 patients in Wuhan had asthma, and the only way that made sense was that they were already using their inhalers early on with symptoms, and so it looked like regular asthma drugs, especially the inhalers, were enough to take care of COVID-19. So that's what I started with this guy. I started him on 60 milligrams a day of prednisone, which takes care of anybody's asthma attack, and because I didn't want it to get worse. I'd seen all these deaths in New York and stuff, and unfortunately, he did get worse. And over the next 6 days, instead of going down on his prednisone, because usually you do 60 for a few days, and 40 for 2 or 3 days, and 20 for 2 or 3 days, then 10, then off, so that you're off altogether before 2 weeks is up. Instead, with him, he actually got more short of breath. He developed shortness of breath, which he hadn't had before, and chest pain, and fever, and all the COVID-19 symptoms. And I wound up doubling his prednisone to 120 a day, which is a very high dose indeed. And he just barely kind of reached equilibrium on a Saturday, 8 days from the time I saw him. And then one of his parents divided the dose of 120 up into threes, and then he crapped out on Sunday. He got really bad on Monday, and it must have been a holiday or something, because I didn't hear from him, and I heard all about this on Tuesday. But what had happened was that he had bought quercetin, and it finally arrived on Sunday. So he took one dose on Sunday, and he took the second. I take it back. It arrived. He took the first dose on Monday. He took the second dose, and this was after he went to the ER. He had 9 breathing treatments. Normally, he only took 3 or 4 a day. He was really in bad shape on Monday, and his chest burned with each breath. So he took his first quercetin dose Monday evening, and then his second quercetin dose Tuesday morning. And by Tuesday at noontime, he started feeling better for the first time in a month. And by Wednesday, he was back to normal. I mean, he felt better than he had in an entire month. And I've never seen anything like it. Even prednisone doesn't make you feel that better that fast.
Yeah, that is just amazing. And we're here with Dr. David Moskowitz, founder, CEO, and Chief Medical Officer, GenoMed. It's genomed.com if you want to take a look. Great website with a ton of info. And we're talking a little bit about paper that Dr. Moskowitz wrote on quercetin for COVID-19. It can be found on Dr. Moskowitz's LinkedIn page. Is that pretty? Is it also on the GenoMed.com if people want to find it, or they can request you on LinkedIn and maybe grab it there?
Right, either LinkedIn, or you can just go to GenoMed.com and click on Contact Us and give me your email, and I'll send you a copy of the case report.
Yeah, I also have Dr. Moskowitz's email here. It's dwmoskowitz@genomed.com, but the paper's there as well. Yeah, the paper is just amazing how, it's the case report and the abstract paper of everything going on here listed. It really goes detail of the whole scenario here and how everything worked out. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but on the other side, Dr. Moskowitz, I want to ask you a little bit more about quercetin, because it's interesting where it's found in foods and the diet, and then a unique connection to the color yellow, which I found really fascinating at the end. I'm a writer, so I really like that part at the end. But we'll talk about that in just 1 minute on the other side on the You and Your Doctor show.
All County Healthcare has exciting news for any and all patients with COPD or other respiratory ailments. Listen to what renowned pulmonologist Dr. Keith Robinson has to say.
Hello, I'm Dr. Keith Robinson, board-certified pulmonologist, medical director at Fusion Health Pulmonary Rehabilitation, and a board member with the American Lung Association of South Florida. We have exciting news for patients with COPD. We now offer IPV therapy at home, which has been demonstrated to improve airway clearance, decrease hospitalization, and improve quality of life of patients with COPD. Please call All County Healthcare for more information about this FDA-approved therapy.
For further information, call All County Healthcare now at 954-717-7027. That is 954-717-7027, or visit our website at allcountyhealthcare.com. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Remember, All County Healthcare always puts the patient's needs first. You are listening to You and Your Doctor, Living Longer and Healthier, an informative show that helps you find answers to questions you always wanted to ask but did not have that somebody that could make a difference in your life. Call into the show if you have a question at 888-565-1470, and we will put you on the air to inform all our listeners. Now, back to our show.
Hello, South Florida, and we're back on the You and Your Doctor show here with Dr. David Moskowitz, founder, chief executive officer, chief medical officer of GenoMed. So it's genomed.com. Email is dwmoskowitz@genomed.com. Dr. Moskowitz is a nephrologist, nephrology, the care of kidneys. So, but also, the body as well. So we're talking about quercetin for COVID-19. Dr. Moskowitz wrote a paper. If you're, listening on the radio, we'll give out the info, find it again. But if you're, online watching here, you saw me show the paper. So it's quercetin for COVID-19 ? Really fascinating case of actually a COVID-19 case. So Dr. Moskowitz, before the break, I was teasing there. Can quercetin be consumed through the diet? Because I did a little bit of research on my own. I found that it can be found in plants and foods, so it can be consumed. It's something we consume, right?
Right. We normally take in about 10 or 15 milligrams a day, and plants are the source. And as you said, it makes flowers yellow. So it's one of these plant flavonoids that give color to flowers. So it's very important in the plant world, and some of the plants that have lots of it aren't necessarily yellow; they're on the darker side. So capers have the most, and cilantro has some, and red onions have more than white or yellow onions. red grapes have more than green grapes. But there's it's very hard to not find quercetin in foods. Curry is probably half quercetin, the yellow color of curry, and it may explain why COVID-19 is less severe in India than it has been in a country like Italy, say.
Yeah, and that's a ton of thing that it's found in, and those are all things that I like as well. So I think I also have listed here buckwheat tea, cilantro, apples, of course you said capers. Can we consume? Obviously, we can consume. It can help our health, but in this case, why do you think there was obviously your treatment was really helpful until the prescription was messed there without your authority, but that that happened. But then this quercetin came at the right time. How do you think it helped to get this patient back to a quality of life that they had before? Was it the combination with the prednisone, or was it just a big dose? Is there a way of knowing that, or?
Well, the reasoning in clinical cases is never straightforward. But this guy, when he was 10 years old, it was the first time that he'd actually had to take steroids, prednisone. So from the age of 4, when he first had asthma, till 10, he could just handle an asthma attack with the inhaler, with albuterol or one of the inhalers that he took. But when he was 10, he had to take prednisone. And he didn't get off prednisone for 2 years, which is an extremely long time to have to be on a steroid. And so I was afraid that he could be on prednisone for 2 more years. And I really thought he was going to die that Monday, the 20th of April. Because, he couldn't take a breath. Each breath was agony. He said he never felt like that in his entire life. And he'd had 14 years of asthma, which, is nerve-wracking if you've ever had it. To not be able to breathe is just, terrifying. So here he had something that made him even more anxious than his asthma had ever made him. And and he was already on 120 a day of prednisone, and it wasn't holding him one little bit. And so to dramatically respond to just 2 doses of quercetin really looked like the prednisone had nothing to do with his recovery, that quercetin was the only reason that he got better so fast, and suggested that the mechanism for COVID-19 may actually be specifically inhibited by quercetin. And I have an idea for how that might happen.
Yeah, please share it. I mean, it's probably pretty in depth, but we still have 8 minutes. Please share it, definitely.
Well, so this now becomes science fiction because it hasn't been proven yet. But the virus, COVID-19 virus, like pretty much all viruses, has a nucleic acid inside the virus, which has could be either RNA or DNA, but it has a lot of phosphates in the backbone that make it negatively charged. So you've got this big negative charge coiled up inside the virus. Then you've got a lipid bilayer on the outside of the virus with protein sticking out like this S protein that gloms onto ACE2 in the lung. Anyway, the basic structure of the virus is the membrane and the negative charge inside. And there's a nuclear capsid protein. There aren't that many proteins in the virus. There's only 4 or 5. But one of the biggies is this nuclear capsid protein that attaches the negative charge to the membrane. And the way that the nucleic capsid protein does that is it has a corresponding positive charge to bind to the negative phosphate backbone of the nucleic acid. So it has a positive charge, like 7 amino acids. Of those 7, 6 are lysines, which have positive charges. It's an incredible concentration of positive charge that you would never see in any other protein. And then in other regions of that protein, there are hydrophobic, greasy portions, fat-loving portions of the protein that love to get buried into the lipid bilayer of the virus. So it's literally what holds the virus together. Well, it turns out that structure of a positive charge, which and then a greasy region, is the structure of the so-called basic secretagogues. And there's a series of compounds that share this structure with, positive, and one of them is wasp venom, mastoperin, which is one of the components of wasp venom, has a bunch of positive charges and a bunch of sort of fat-loving areas of the peptide. And there are others like its substance P. Anyway, this nucleic capsid is one of these basic secretagogues. And there's a receptor that's just been described in the past few years that specifically binds to these basic secretagogues on the mast cell. The receptor is only located on the mast cell. It's called the MRGPRX2 receptor. It sounds like a sports car. And what it allows is when it binds a basic secretagogue like this wasp venom, like people have allergies to wasp venom or peanuts or whatever that are mediated by IgE. And if they don't use their EpiPen right away, they'll die from anaphylaxis. Well, that's basically what COVID-19 appears to be. It appears to be an anaphylactic reaction induced by the viral nucleocapsid protein binding to this specialized receptor on the mast cell and triggering mast cell degranulation in the absence of IgE. So this MRGPRX2 receptor binds to the receptor for the IgE antibody, but it short circuits the whole thing. You don't even need IgE to start the thing going. And so what COVID-19 does is essentially give everybody a peanut allergy with the very first peanut they're seeing. And quercetin at very high affinity can block that receptor from firing. So even though we eat, milligrams of it, and if you take 250 or 500 milligrams more, you're, multiplying the amount in your diet by a factor of 20 to 50. Even though we eat milligrams, we only need microgram to inhibit symptoms. So it's a great drug. If it works, it's going to be great.
It really is. Yeah, thanks for explaining that. We're out of time again, but that was, again, fascinating. Again, it's Dr. David Moskowitz. GenoMed.com is where you can find this amazing case report, or email Dr. Moskowitz at dwmoskowitz@genomed.com. Dr. Moskowitz, thank you again, and we'll see you next time on the You and Your Doctor show.
Thanks so much, David, for having me on.
Thank you for letting us share with you a longer and healthier lifestyle. If you have a doctor or are a doctor and wish to be on the show, call AMP2TV at 866-244-5422, and we will put you on the air as soon as possible. Tune in next week for more information on living longer and having a healthier life.